Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, today I've got a great little video. I'm interviewing a Mr. Richie Finney from the fantabulous Captain Fawcett's Limited Company. Richie is such an entertaining character and he's got a fantastic company that you should check out. So why not come and watch the video with me now? Mr. Richie Finney, the Captain Fawcett's right-hand man. He's just come back from Italy, I do believe it was, on his little bike trails. And yes, he runs the Captain Fawcett's Beard Emporium, or what would you label it, Richie?
Well, it is Captain Fawcett's Emporium. I mean, it's a homage to Mantiques. It's the world's largest barbershop museum, which is literally 9,000 square feet of lots of very old and interesting things. Yeah, it's in Kings Lynn, Norfolk and Good. I moved up here about 15 years ago. Prior to that, I was living near Reading.
I gather there was an interesting start for you getting involved with the old beard community and selling beard products. As well, you sell barbershop products. You're more of an all-encompassing thing. You're not just a beard product sales. Can you give us a bit of history on how you got involved with the business, please?
Yeah, well, how the business started was really quite by accident, I think. I'm not waxed today because I've just been literally on doing performances and appearances every night for the last fortnight, so I've just given myself a bit of downtime. So I used to make my own moustache wax in my kitchen. Where's the camera? There we are, in a baked bean tin. And I would make 6 pots. I mean, that would make about 6 pots, and I'd do those old-fashioned movie still film 35mm little pots, and that would be it. It's as simple as that. And I worked in the movie industry. Mm-hmm. I was a boom operator. I used to wave the microphone above my head and try and keep it out of shot and not hit people and not throw shadows, you know, to varying degrees of success. But my wife is she's retired now. A well-known hair and makeup artist. She was in the game for 44 years. And as I said, I used to make the wax in this tin. And then one day she literally said to me, "Can I take some of your moustache wax to work for the girls, for the floor bags, for the set bags, because the products we're using are just rubbish." So that's how it happened. I bought 100 empty jars on eBay, glass jars on eBay. I filled them up. I made a really awful amateur label, but it was a label. But the wax was good. That was the main thing. And well, that's 14 years ago, and the product's pretty well on every single film set to this day.
I'm sure you've met quite a few people within the industry, have you, in your time?
Yeah, well, in that time, and there's various things. I've had Charlton Heston's dick in my ear, and I've had some other stuff. And I've had my hands and head up Michelle Pfeiffer's skirt on a film called Stardust. This is all to do not because Charlton Heston was a pervert or I like dicks in my ear, but it's you have to put the radio mic on, and dependent on the costume, you have to hide the pack. Because anyone turns round or it's a long shot, you don't want to see the pack and you don't want to see the mic, you see. So on the case of Michelle Pfeiffer, she's wearing an extremely tight black dress. It's a film called Stardust. You know, it's quite interesting. She was one of the 3 witches. And you had to put the belt, so on a tight dress, you have to put a little thigh belt on. So the pack's actually sitting on the inside of the thigh, and you have to be very careful which way the aerial is facing, otherwise it, of course, can tickle somebody's fancy. And with the case with Charlton Heston, I had to put a belt on him. He was dressed, he was in Hamlet, you know, Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, and he literally, because it was so hot, he had this kind of girt kind of tunic on, and he had nothing on underneath. So as I was hitching up his tunic to put his belt on, I mean, he was bollock naked. There we are. So But what happened is from those very early days with the moustache wax, in between films, I'd actually run motorcycle tours, you know, because on a good year on movies, you're doing 9 months, you know, 90 hours a week though. And on a bad year, you might only be doing three months. So in between, I'd run motorcycle tours all over the world. And I met this one guy on there who's the photographer, and he just phoned me up one day, said, "How's it all going?" And I told him about this amateur label for the movie. And he came back with a design really quickly. And Ian, to this day, is a director of Captain Fawcett. And then, of course, 14 years ago, it was right at the beginning of the of the beard, the growth of the beard, to coin a phrase. And we were right at the beginning of producing Bill, and it so happened that Ian, the man I mentioned who became the designer of Captain Fawcett, his wife was an aromatherapist, so she developed the beard oils, which we still make. You know, we're sold in 40 countries. We employ 22 people, but I can look across now. I can go out of my office, and we still make all our beard oil and moustache wax and all our balms, everything. We still make them ourselves, and there's very few companies can actually say that.
You was on about your first labels were very basic, as you said.
Awful. Yeah.
But now there's absolutely nothing at all basic about your products, my good man. It is fantastic looking products. That's very fantastic looking website. And you are an amazing.
I'm going to go red in a minute.
Just chatting to you, you get this kind of, you've got this enthusiasm, almost, can I say, an eccentricity about the way you talk and act. It's kind of. But it's genuine. You know, you can see that there's an enthusiasm in there. It's a lovely thing to see.
I think the thing is, it's to surround yourself with people who can do things as well as you, if not better. And I mean, I'm ex-movie industry, but for instance, you mentioned the YouTube films. We've got Bryony, she's worked here for 4 years now. She's the absolute bee's knees. Don't tell her because you want to pay rights. But the absolute bee's knees on the social media. Again, all our design, the manufacturing, all our social media, everything is done in-house. So we really, really own it. So it's working with people who can add to your dream. So I feel myself actually a bit like a film director, but it's another analogy I like to use, a bit like a conductor of an orchestra, right? I know I can't play all the instruments, right? I could probably play the triangle, but I can't play the trumpet or the horn or the violin or whatever. But I know what sound they should make. So I feel like they've got an orchestra. So you've got these people who can play their instruments really, really well. Yeah. And as a conductor, I'm coordinating that. Yeah. But you should never, and it's important to be humble, because it's very important to remember that without, don't believe your own propaganda. It's very important to credit the people you work with who are adding to your dream, because without them, I'd still be in my kitchen with that.
With your baked beans.
Yeah.